Welcome to another episode, Mental Health Mondays. It is the week of October 31st, Halloween, 2022. Happy Halloween. I don't know if that's really something you say. I guess that's not really something you say to people. Happy Halloween. It's not like other holidays in that way, which is kind of weird if you think about it. Why not? Trick or treat. Maybe we should just start saying trick or treat to each other. Like not just when you ring the doorbell and expect a trick or a treat. It's Halloween, so that's fun. Halloween is fun. I wish my house was in the front. We live in a back house, so we're not going to be giving candy to children tomorrow, which sucks because that's kind of fun, especially once you get older. Obviously, Halloween parties and all that stuff, very fun, but kind of miss that aspect of it too. Even like living in my mom's house still when I was like 18, 19 years old, not really doing much on the actual day of Halloween. I always enjoyed seeing little kids come to the door all excited. It's one of the most, it's like just a nice little beautiful part of life that you don't get to experience as much living in a big city. But I think there will probably be trick-or-treaters on our street. Just we live in the back, so they won't be coming to our house. They'll be coming to that's besides the point. So yeah, it's Halloween. I'm all dressed up. This is not a Halloween costume. I'm just getting ready to go preemptively just because, this is what I'm wearing to the Mark Anthony concert. Got tickets to go see Mark Anthony for my lovely girlfriend's birthday present. She is of Spanish descent, Dominican, so thought it'd be a fun thing to go see some salsa music. Beautiful, wonderful, amazing music. So we got ready to go see the concert. It was the day before Halloween, which is October 30th. Halloween is October 31st, just to clarify. So we get ready. She looks beautiful. She gets, all dressed in her outfit. We went to the store, the mall, to get clothes to wear. We, just haven't been doing a ton of stuff. And, sometimes you just feel like your closet needs a little update. So especially for women, it tends to be like, I have nothing to wear because all my nice stuff has been seen already. So I get it, whatever. We went to the store. I didn't have much to wear either. So I bought this outfit. That's why I look so whatever. So we get ready. We're excited to go because October 30th is the concert. So that's when we're going to the concert. October 30th, Frank, which is Saturday. It's Saturday, October 30th, because Halloween is on Sunday, Frank. So she does the whole shebang, gets her makeup, her outfit ready. I take my usual 15, 20 minutes to get ready. Get in the car, listening to some music on the way, getting excited, whatever. I was at the Forum, which is an awesome classic venue. Obviously, the Lakers used to play there for years. Any great artist you can think of has played a show there, pretty much. So we're on our way. We're getting close. And I remember looking on the app that I had the tickets on and thinking, I don't know why I keep saying tomorrow, like that this concert's tomorrow. I figured the app is kind of slow. It wasn't loading all that well anyway. So I'm like, oh, it's just glitching out and it's like not refreshing from yesterday. So the concert's saying that it's tomorrow. And then we're pulling up to the Forum and I'm like, oh, you know who's going to be here is Harry Styles is supposed to be here tomorrow or tonight or tomorrow. Or yesterday, whatever it was. He was playing two shows. I knew it was right around the time of the concert we were going to. So I was like, oh, by the way. And then we see this woman. When you go to a concert or an event, there's always people outside selling bootleg stuff, bootleg T-shirts, whatever it is. And they're selling boas. And both of us are like, that's kind of a weird thing to be selling for a Mark Anthony concert. I don't know necessarily what the correlation between Mark Anthony and like feathery boas is. And just jokingly, as we're about to turn into the parking lot, literally my blinker's on, we're turning into the parking lot. I'm like, wait, today's October 30th, right? And Jay goes, no, it's October 29th. And I'm like, no, for real, it's October 30th. And then we pull up my phone, and it's October 29th. And I'm like, oh my fucking goodness. Halloween's on Monday, not on Sunday. The whole time, I had it in my head that Halloween was on Sunday. I don't know why. I genuinely don't. For some reason, just weeks ago when I looked at the calendar, in my head it registered, October 31st is on Sunday. And I knew the concert was on the 30th, the day before Halloween. And so that meant Saturday, because Saturday comes before Sunday. But the problem is Halloween isn't on Sunday this year. It's on Monday, which means the concert's tonight, Sunday, when I'm filming this, not yesterday. So I just immediately felt like a complete idiot, obviously, because it was a very boneheaded, idiotic mistake to make. I don't know why I didn't take the hint when I looked at the app and it said tomorrow. I just was convinced, I had convinced myself the concert was on Saturday. All week getting ready for it, I'm like, Saturday we have the concert. Making plans around it because Saturday we're going to have to go do this and this and this and then get ready for the concert, so there's not really much we can do. Saturday is the concert. Well, it wasn't Saturday. It was Sunday. I jokingly wore, I don't know why I wore these clothes, I guess because it's the only cool outfit I now own, and I now own it for no purpose because some other things we couldn't really necessarily go tonight. We had to sell the tickets. So just a real dumb, silly mistake on my part, and tried our best to laugh it off, but obviously it's so disappointing because it's like we got ready to go do this fun thing, especially from a female perspective where they take longer to get ready, all the makeup looks good. I'm not always happy with it. The makeup looks great. The hair looks great. All for nothing. And quickly tried to pivot, like, okay, well, let's go do something else fun. But like, it just didn't work out. And so I just figured I'd tell that story because it was the most eventful thing that happened to me this weekend, for sure. Kind of felt silly. It definitely felt not great about myself for a while. And I guess the lesson there is just brush it off. It's not the end of the world. It's not a big deal. Obviously, ideally, I would have picked the right night for the concert. I would have known the actual day the concert was on. There's no reason I shouldn't have known. It was just a very dumb mistake. I just had it convinced in my head, dude. I just was convinced that the concert was on Saturday, October 30th. It's on Sunday, October 30th. So someone is at the concert dancing to Mark Anthony instead of us now because I messed up big time. So that was funny, but what are you going to do? Shit happens. Life happens. It's not the end of the world. A very first world problem, which apparently I heard is now politically incorrect to say, which I don't understand. That's besides the point. So no concert for us. That stunk. Silly. Again, I tend to take the tact. That's alliteration. Tend to take the tact. It's very good alliteration. I tend to take the tact that with stuff like that, it's like, it's kind of just funny. There's no real penalty to it. Like gas money and just the whole waste. It was a waste of time. Obviously, you never want to waste your time. That's never ideal. But it was kind of funny. So I'm just taking it as that. Got to brush it off. Not beat myself up over it too much. It's not the end of the world. It's all good. No one was harmed. It's just not that big of a deal. So we move on. Try to get the next date right for whenever, I don't know, the next event we go to is. But dang, the more I think about it, it's like, what the heck? So that was funny. Again, just got to take the lesson of it, like brush it off. Shit happens. It's not a big deal. And it ended up kind of working out in a way because it actually worked out better, I guess, in some ways, other than the fact that we're not at the concert right now, that the tickets I had gotten were not what I thought they were upon further review. And so I'm kind of glad I sold them, and we'll go to a different fun thing together instead. It kind of worked out. But it would have been nice to see Mark Anthony. He's awesome. Legend. So yeah, it just makes me laugh thinking about it. Like, I wish you could see. I wish we had a video clip of the moment in the car when I looked over at her and said, "Wait, it's October 30th, right?" Because I was completely kidding. I was 100% certain it was October 30th. So it was just very funny to be like, no, it's not October 30th. How in the world, before getting ready all day, nothing, neither one of us checked or was like, wait, when, just to make sure it is tonight, right? Boneheaded mistake. It's not my first bonehead mistake. Certainly won't be my last. But sometimes you just got to brush it off, laugh it off. It's not the end of the world. It's kind of just funny at the end of the day. Oh, the twisted webs we weave. Um, this week I've been still continuing rehearsing for live show coming up. Don't have a date yet. I just keep saying coming up because I know one will be coming up. I just want to be as ready as I possibly can before setting something in stone. I have a couple options right now, which is always good. It's always good to have options. So I'll obviously talk about that further when I know. But other than just rehearsing for live show coming up, also been trying to focus every other day on making new music. Like I said last week, trying to hone in a little more on like scheduling myself, not so much to like put myself in a box, like this is what I need to get done creatively, because I don't think that always works, especially as a creative person or as an artist. But there does have to be some structure, at least. It's not even that there has to be structure. You just have to know what works for you. And I know that I am much more productive, and my creative process is more efficient if I do have a little bit of a schedule or at least goals. So I've been every day rehearsing for the live show because no matter what, I need to be practicing. So that's an easy everyday thing. But then on top of that, every other day, I allow myself to branch out from just rehearsing and work on some new music that I have in the vault right now, which is cool. And it just made me reflect on the aspect or on the ideal of creating for the sake of creating and not being worried about the result you get, and how that is probably the best outlook you can have, or that will churn out the best work you can make, is not being fixated on what the result will be and just creating for the sake of creation. Creating for the love of it, doing it for the love of what you do. Because at the end of the day, whether you're an artist or a musician or a sculptor or you knit things, I don't know, whatever it is, we all chose that path because it spoke to us and because we love it and we care about it and it's our passion. But when you try to turn it into your life and monetize it, it can be a daunting task in the sense that during the process of creation, which is the most fun part, the most enjoyable part for most people who are creative, we can get caught up on, okay, well, how will this perform? Or what will the return of my investment of creative time be on this? And it's okay to be conscious of that, but we really need to make sure that we're doing it for the right reason still. And that's something that I've been trying to remind myself of these past few weeks. And it hasn't been too difficult because I've been doing it long enough, making music long enough, to know sometimes things kind of take off with no rhyme or reason. And then sometimes you put a certain amount of effort into promoting certain things and it works, and sometimes it does not. And so at the end of the day, can kind of be a crapshoot what thing you create that takes off versus the thing you create that you thought would do that. So I'm saying all this to say that at the end of the day, that is just proof positive that we can't focus too much on the result of things. Now, you have to be conscious of it, especially if you're trying to turn it from a hobby to a career. You can't always be making absolutely nothing off of your art if you want it to sustain your life and sustain itself. But your creativity will suffer if you focus too much on what you're getting out of it. So this past week, making new music, I've been trying to blank that out completely. And it just, the purest form of art comes from it being created for the sake of it being created, for the sake of just, it feels good at the moment. I always say that anytime I get asked or anytime I just think about it to myself. My creative process, so to speak, is just letting whatever happen, throwing something at the wall and seeing if it'll stick. And if it doesn't, then just starting over or whatever. But the thing is, when you're not so worried about how it's going to turn out, you can have fun in that creative process. And when you're having fun while creating, it allows you to take more risks And through taking more risks, you are creating art that is authentic to yourself, and in turn is art that will live on more so than something that you're making for a certain reason, one reason or another. It seems like every artist you hear speak about an album or a single of an album or something like that, you hear all the time stories of like, yeah, we didn't think that song was going to be anything. Or you hear, we thought this song was amazing and the record executives hated it and didn't want it to be the single. Well, I know Bohemian Rhapsody had that story where the label's like, this is a jumbled mess. There's no way this is going to sell like a single. And then all of a sudden that becomes the thing that lives on from that piece of work. And I think the lesson of that story always is just that you don't know how the world is going to take something you create, but you do know that it feels good to create it. So focus on the part of that feels good, and that's the actual creation of the thing. So especially since I'm kind of branching out and doing, it's like I'm branching out and doing something a bit different than I have in the past, and that can be daunting a bit because it doesn't necessarily fit in with things I have found that have worked previously, or it's not necessarily a niche or a genre of music that is the most popular currently, or that management or agencies or labels, unless they're specifically in that vein, they're not necessarily they're looking for something they know works. And that's fine if your only goal is making money. But to me, that's like counterintuitive to the whole process of being a creative person, being an artist, being an authentic artist who loves their music because it's so much a part of them. And so I just can't, I just know, I'm trying to keep telling myself, like, I can't get caught up on focusing too much on the result. And it just relates back to your mental health in such a strong, profound way, because focusing on the outcome when you don't even really know, by the time you get to that outcome that you are working towards, say you put yourself in this box when you're creating something for a designed outcome, even if you get that designed outcome, by the time the process gets to that point, you don't even know if you're going to still want that outcome. But when you're in the flow of making and creating your art, taking yourself from one thing that feels good to the next thing that feels or sounds good to the next thing, and then you don't really like this, so you tweak that. Like that actual creative process and riding that wave of creation will ensure that the finished product you get, no matter what, will be fulfilling to you, whether it performs the way you think or want it to or not. And again, I understand that as artists who are pursuing it more so than just a hobby, which I feel like is a lot of people nowadays. I understand that, like, it seems almost impossible to not want to think like, okay, how can this song go viral, or that kind of like how we have to be making things for the commercial aspect of it, or like that fit in the mainstream, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. But I just don't think that kind of art is ever fully fulfilling the soul of the artist who's creating it, because there's an ulterior motive intertwined with it, rather than the creation itself being the purpose. As humans, whether you make music or you make paintings or you make sculptures or you knit scarves or you build houses, people are designed to create. We are all creative in our own way. And again, it's not a bad thing to want to have monetary gain from being a creative person or from your creations, but I think that when you focus too much on it, it takes a lot of the authenticity and a lot of the beauty and a lot of the just like legendary aspects of making art away from it completely. I think maybe one way is to separate the two things, but that's difficult for me. I know personally that's difficult for me. Like, for what I mean by separate the two things, maybe you put time into something specifically knowing, okay, I know this is not necessarily what I do, or this is not the aspect of my art that I love, but it might be a necessary evil to push me forward in my career. and so I'm going to invest time in that. That's fine, but I think it's a dangerous, slippery slope because all of a sudden you do that a few times, and that's what people like, and that's what people expect, and maybe you create a small little fan base, and the fan base grows, and now all of a sudden you're stuck doing something that does not fulfill you, but it's working in your career. It is you are successful in pursuing your career that in that manner, but all of a sudden your art doesn't fulfill you any longer and you fall out of love with it. And so I think that's definitely a slippery slope, but I also do understand that sometimes it's a necessary evil, it's not evil, but for lack of a better term, it's a necessary evil to do things that are a little more commercially appealing or do things that are more viral. I don't know the word. And I'm not talking shit about people that do that. I totally understand. I just think that over the past few months, maybe the past year or so, since starting this new journey, so to speak, of music, my whole perspective on all of it has shifted completely. Because I think before I was a little too focused on the end result, on what could come of it, on giving my Grammy speech. And a lot of those things are things I still want to attain, but it ripped the joy out of creating music completely for me. And it didn't feel right anymore. It didn't feel like I was getting out of it what I always wanted, even though I was spending so much of my time making music and like in that way living my dream. I just felt like it just wasn't what I wanted. And now I'm not getting the numbers or I guess numbers. Now I'm not getting the streams I was getting. It's also with the ground floor. I have perfect confidence that that'll pick up eventually. But just since it's so early on still, not getting necessarily the numbers I was getting with our previous music, and just even though the music we used to make was super unique in and of itself as well, it still fit the mainstream a bit more than what I'm doing now. So it's like, even though I'm not getting that part of it with the music I'm making currently at this moment, it still feels more fulfilling to me. Like it just feels more of an authentic part of myself, and in that way, I wouldn't replace it at all. It's making me happy. It's genuinely making me happy to create this music again, which is fucking great. I know I talked about this in a previous episode, but then that's where the mental health aspect comes in, because it's like, I think every artist is like a closet egomaniac, and I am extremely humble. It's so funny to say you're extremely humble, because saying you're extremely humble right there is kind of contradicting yourself. But I do find myself to be very humble. I always root for the humble character in the movie, the humble superstar, musician, athlete, whatever. That always seems to be who I gravitate towards. I just think that that's the more honorable way, whatever. We all have our own thoughts on that. It's fine. It's not really that important. I do feel that I am a humble person, but at the same time, I trust in my ability and my creativity, and I believe in my art to an extent that I truly feel that if heard by the right people, not like the right people as in like Def Jam Records or something like that. I mean, like, if heard by the right fan, they would understand it fully for what it's supposed to be. And currently that hasn't happened. But I have faith that it will. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, that's where the slippery slope of mental health comes in. Because it's like, I feel like I'm so good. I feel like what I'm making is so great. And that's not a bad thing to think highly of yourself. That's actually really positive and good for your mental health. But then when you don't get the feedback that you would wish for ultimately in your dreams, again, when you don't get the result, if you focus on the result, that immediately takes a hit to your mental health. And you're kind of just like, what the fuck? Like, what else can I do? I know I'm making great stuff. and through social media and streaming platforms and whatever, there's ways to promote it. I'm not talking about that. I guess I'm talking about the feeling of feedback. Obviously, it is important because music is made to be heard and shared and performed, and specifically of those three words I just said, shared. It is meant to be experienced together. And I don't mean together like at a concert. It doesn't have to be that way. I mean together as in, I created this piece of music, and you're alone, sad in your car, driving away from your ex-girlfriend's house, upset. And we are sharing that moment, whether I'm there or not, together. And you're hearing this music, and you know what I mean? Like, it's not just meant for me to make a million songs I'm here in my studio and play them for myself over and over and over and over and over again. So as much as the focusing on creating for the sake of creating is very important, and I think is good for my mental health and good for the mental health of any artist or creator out there, it's also very hard to stay true to that or stay conscious and cognizant of that when it feels like you're not getting the love you want to receive back from the people you're sharing with, the world. So I guess that's kind of the balance that we have to try to strike. It's all a balancing act. Everything in life is a balancing act. It's like, okay, I'm trying to do some stuff for the commercial aspect of things, social media, whatever. For example, for something I'm going to begin doing is like, this is no disrespect to anyone that does it, but I'm not a huge fan of like covering other people's music. Sometimes it's really cool and it can be done in an authentic, awesome way. But I tend to think it's a little cheesy, a little hokey, just for me. I'm not disrespecting anyone that does it. I understand why. But the truth of it is, if I were to, although some guy already does like this exact thing, and he's huge on TikTok. If I were to take, pop music, really super popular songs right now, and add a saxophone solo to them or something of that nature, and post them on TikTok, I would absolutely 100,000%, without doubt, get more views on that than if I were to perform my own song on TikTok. You know what I mean? Like, cut it up so that I'm performing my own song on TikTok. That's just the truth of it. That's fine. Some people don't mind doing those. Some people are really good at them. I do not love doing them, and I'm not the best at that stuff, but that's something I'm going to be doing. So what I'm saying is, okay, there you go. There's one aspect. It's like, put a little time into that. It's a small sacrifice to pay to try to, to try to like grow your following and all that stuff, because that stuff, unfortunately, is important if you want to pursue music and art as a career. You need an audience. You need consumers. Not the biggest price to pay to have to do something you don't necessarily love for a little bit. They're not that hard to make, those little videos. So it's like, okay, spend some time doing that. And then also, when you're in the studio, clear your mind of all that kind of shit, because it's not important in that moment. Just create for the sake of creating. Just get it all out, strip it from your soul, and put it onto the sheet of music that is in front of you. I don't know why I said that's not how music gets made. But I'm saying, you know what I mean? Like, take what you're truly feeling, get it out there, make it into music, make your music, make your art a journal of your life. And the best or the way you're going to get the best art out of that is focusing on that and purely that, and not the results. But also, the results do matter a little. So it's kind of hard to buy in fully. That's what I think I need to do. I think with every great sports team, with every great organization, every great business, they always talk about buy-in. You got to come up with a way of going and doing your business and really, truly buy into it fully. No distractions, trust the process, buy into it. So I got to buy in to creating for the sake of creating and know that's going to be how I get my best art back out. As if it was an easy bake oven and I was putting the ingredients in, the only ingredients I should be putting in are creation for the sake of creation and the love and the passion of making this art. With no commercial gain involved, put none of that in the pan. If I were to put that into an easy bake oven, what I got back out would be the best art that I could possibly make. But also, I do have to care a little bit about being able to sell those brownies, you know? So that was actually a pretty good metaphor that I just came up with. So, it's about balancing it. It's hard to do, but it's not impossible. So that is what I am focusing on currently. I probably should focus on the calendar a little more since I messed up. We were supposed to go to the concert. Let me take a sip of coffee. Sorry. Yeah. Creation for the sake of creation. I just listened to the great Rick Rubin speak about this. He's a legend. I admire him in more ways than one. And that's what he was saying. He never really had a result in mind. It was just getting in there and making something happen. And so I agree. I feel like that's typically is my creative process. That's not, very rarely. The only time I get in the studio and it's not just that, like literally most of my songs just start out by like picking an instrument and just playing something random on it and then building around that, and then whatever happens, happens. And 90% of the time, that nothing ever comes of it, but that 10% of the time, that's the music you ever have heard from me. But every once in a while, I'll be like, I'll hear a song, be like, I like this song. I want to make a song like this. Sometimes it happens that way. But regardless, pretty much all the time that I'm making music, it is just a thing of, let me get in there and just get it all out. And I think that when heard by the right people, like I said, they will understand my genius. No, again, I'm humble. I'm not trying to stunt like that, but I mean it. I mean it for the sake of the art, not for me. Take my ego out of it. Put that aside completely. I mean for the sake of, I know this is good music that deserves to be heard. The music itself, as if it was a living, breathing entity, deserves to be heard. And I know when the right people hear it, they'll be like, I get it. This is great. And again, I think that performing it live will be a huge step in realizing that goal of getting the right people to hear it. And also just that's going to be like the coolest, best form of the music is actually hearing me play it. So I'm excited about that. A little nervous, very excited. Just create to create, man. It's not all that important. It's not all that serious. Just fucking do it, man. Seriously, though. I just made a hippie voice, but like that is actually my outlook on life. It's like none of this is all that serious. It's all good. Just do your thing. Do you. Be yourself. Always. Always be authentic to yourself. And, what negative could come from it? Anything negative that comes from being yourself either wasn't meant for you or you can learn from it and adjust and move on. But as long as you're constantly being true to yourself and being true to your soul and doing what feels right, can't really beat yourself up too much. People might not like it. And that's okay. That's also their right to not agree with it. But as long as it's not coming at the expense of other people's happiness, just focusing on making yourself happy is really all you can do in life. And the same goes with creation. Creating art that means something to you is the only way to make authentic, real art, whether it be music or paintings or sculptures or knitting scarves. I don't know why I keep saying knitting scarves. The only way to take a piece of your soul and give it to someone else humbly is to focus fully on creating for the love of it and not for the result of it. And I think that's how 99.9% of all the best songs you've ever heard have been made, or all the best paintings you've ever seen have been created. It's for the meaning of it. The purpose of it is itself, not because, I don't know, there's a difference between a pop song you hear on the radio and it's like, God, this was literally constructed in a lab, the lab, by people whose only goal was to get the song on the radio, versus the deep cut of an album that you throw on when you are at your lowest point or when you're at your highest point. that has no commercial appeal to it, but it is a true piece of art that speaks to the soul of the consumer, the soul of the person that it was meant to touch, whether the person who made the art realized it was meant to touch this specific person or this specific million people or not. The only way to really have a chance of making art like that and having it impact people in that way is to make it completely authentic and have it torn straight from a piece of your soul. Put it on the canvas, put it on the keyboard, put it in your book, put it through your saxophone. And I think that in a lot of ways, that's what life's all about, because that's the most beautiful part of all of us, is pure creation that comes from within. The EP, Humania came to me in a dream. It really actually isn't the word Humania, which I don't think is a real word, but it was supposed to be an acronym, HMNIA. Hello, my name is Art. Because I had a dream that I was at a museum, and someone I was with, I don't remember who, leaned on a painting on accident, and the security flipped out. And they were kind of like, what? It's not that big of a deal. And for some reason, I started preaching to them, no, it's a huge deal. Like, this is art. This is the purest expression of the human soul. This was a piece of someone's soul you just leaned on and could have damaged for no reason. And, like, that's fucked up. This is important, you know? And then I was, in the dream, I, like, had this realization that, like, if art is the purest form of human expression, meaning it's a piece of us, a piece of human beings, which means it's a piece of God, because we are a piece of God, and art is a piece of us, so art is a piece of God. So and if we are a piece of God, and art is a piece of us, and art is a piece of God, then we are all art, and art is God, and we are God, and like this weird I don't know, in my dream it just made complete sense. So I had the idea of the EP being called Hello, My Name is Art, because we are all art. But then I realized that acronym kind of spells out Humania, and I thought, wow, that's a great name, because it's like the craziness mania of the human experience. And the craziest part of the human experience is the fact that we are all art. The good, the bad, the ugly, the worst moments of us, the best moments of us, it all eventually can be expressed in some form of art. And so I got to keep reminding myself that was where that body of work that I put out came from, and that creation for the sake of creation is the most important form of creation, and that making music for any other reason would be doing a disservice to myself and be doing a disservice to anyone who wanted to consume what I'm doing. So that's what I've been focusing on in the studio recently. That and rehearsing for live shows, because I can't wait. But yeah, we are all a piece of art. And regardless of what your religious background is, we are all a piece of God in one way or another. We're all a piece of the universe. We're all connected more than we think. We all go through it. We all have ups and downs. All you can hope is that you have more ups than downs, and every time you have a down, you can get back up. Otherwise, there's no real secret to life, I don't think. I think that's kind of the crux of it, is just getting up at least one more time than you got knocked down. And just being true to yourself, creating for the sake of creating, whether you're an artist or not. Every task you have in some way is a form of creation, is a form of putting yourself back into the world. And I think that's all we can try to do, is take the purest, most authentic parts of ourselves and try to leave pieces of it in the world, because eventually someone will come along and see it, and it will help them too. They will see themselves in the reflection of what you've made of yourself. And that's the best way we can all connect with each other. And I think that's really important. And I think that's my purpose of life, my purpose for living, and that's certainly my purpose for creation and making music. So I'm going to keep doing that because I love it. And it's not always the most rewarding thing, but at the end of the day, it's what I love most in the world. So if you can find something you love like that, I suggest you try to do everything you can to make it what your life is surrounded by, and what you're surrounded by, what you surround your life with, something like that. It was good for a second. Yeah, thanks again for listening. Gonna try to keep upgrading this some way. I started out with an outfit. I tried to get dressed, actually, instead of just throwing t-shirt on. Maybe next week, who knows? Maybe we'll have a guest. Maybe we'll do the podcast upside down. Maybe I'll interview people on the street. I don't know. But I'm going to keep trying to make it more interesting. But more importantly, I got to remember I got this. You got to remember you got this. And if not, we got this. We got each other. Thank you again for listening. Keep streaming the EP. And I'll see you next week.